welcome to today's lecture, and today we are going to discuss about conformations of butane. So basically we are going to do a conformational analysis. So there are basically two parts of this particular statement. One is conformations and another is butane, that is our molecule. By conformations, what do you mean? We basically know what conformations are. So basically if I talk this as my hand, I can open the palm, I can rotate it, I can twist it, whatever I do, I am basically creating different conformations of my hand. And we are going to do the same for this butane molecule, how this can rotate, how the twisting can be done, what will be the associated potential energy and all. To make it easier, what I have done, I have drawn the molecule, like I have drawn different forms of the molecule or different projections of the molecule on the pre-work, and I have also used some color like blue and red, and I will come to that why I have used this blue and red color basically. Now coming down to this second part, that is butane. This butane molecule is a 3D molecule, like it has 3D shape, and there are basically 3 carbon-carbon single bonds, and all the carbon centers are sp3 hybridized. We know that these are tetrahedral carbons. The angles are 190 to 28 minutes, or approximately 190 to 28 minutes. So this 3D molecule, this is the line drawing of the molecule, line representation, and this is kind of the 3D view of the molecule. So these are the 4 carbons that we have. These are the hydrogens attached. We know what does this gassed and waste structure mean. So the hydrogens are coming out, the other hydrogens are going inside the plane, and these are on the plane of the board. And this is the source projection of the molecule. Just to make the visualization or understanding a little bit easier, we use projections. So on the 2D side, we use this kind of projection. This is called source projection. The same molecule viewed in a different way. I have numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4. Here also 1, 2, 3, 4. And here what I have done, I have clubbed this CH3 into one group, and I have pointed it out as 1. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is the source one, and this is another projection of the same molecule, that is Newman projection. We call it Newman projection, and where we basically view the molecule from this angle. So from here we are looking at the molecule, and we see the first carbon, we see the second carbon, first carbon, second carbon number 2 on the front side, and carbon number 3 at the back side. So carbon number 2 is this one, carbon number 3 is the red one, and CH3 group attached to the carbon number 1, hydrogen, that I have shown. The third carbon has CH3 group attached to the downside, and other 2 hydrogens. So this is the representation, Newman representation or projection of the molecule. And what I have also done, which is not usually done, but just to make it a little bit more easier to understand, I have shown this CH3 to be a little bit larger, because this is on the front side and this is coming towards me. These hydrogens are also a little bit larger, and comparatively this CH3 is smaller, this hydrogen is smaller, this hydrogen is smaller. That doesn't mean that this hydrogen is larger than this hydrogen, but it's just to give an impression that that is coming towards me, and the other groups are coming, other groups or atoms are going away from me. Anyways, so we will go ahead with these kind of projections. Mostly we will be targeting or focusing on this Newman projection. We will be using this one. For our further discussions. Well, this butane molecule, because this is all carbon-carbon single bonds, the beauty of this molecule is like I can rotate every portion around a single bond. So I can think it as a cogwheel, and for any portion I can keep this fixed and I can rotate this particular portion, or I can keep this portion fixed and I can rotate the other portion. So I can keep on doing it about every single bond, because there is no restriction. So the molecule can and do. these kind of rotations around any of these single bonds and all of those single bonds. And the rotation frequency is almost like 10 to the power of the order of 10 to the power 12 rotations per second. So that's pretty huge a number. And at room temperature this thing happens. This can happen because this doesn't require a very high amount of energy. So the required potential energy or the energy barrier for this kind of rotation or twisting to be done is pretty low and can be easily achieved at room temperature. So this does, and at a very high rate. Anyways, now due to this kind of rotation, the molecule can actually travel through a different set of potential energy curves. Now what I mean, suppose I rotate the whole molecule about this hydrogen. So think of this molecule to be stationary and I am rotating this hydrogen ball about this single bond. Nothing is going to change. The potential energy essentially remains the same. Because you are not getting any new type of structure or no new type of interaction is coming into the picture. So essentially rotating about any of these hydrogens are not going to make any difference. But if I do it about any of the carbon-carbon bonds, then I can see different sets of interactions coming into picture. And to make it easier or to make it more understandable or approachable, what we'll do, we will consider our rotation of this molecule about this C2C3 bond. Because major energy changes will basically be achieved if I do this rotation about this C2C3 bond. So if I do, rather than looking at this part of the molecule, if I look at this one or this one, so if I do this rotation, I'll see that at one point of time this CH3 is coming closer to this hydrogen, or this CH3 is coming closer to this hydrogen, closer in the in terms of vicinity, not like exactly they are going to collide. So one carbon is this CH3 is attached to one carbon and the other hydrogen attached to the other carbon, that C3 carbon. But still, while rotating, they will have some interference, or they will come in the closer vicinity of interaction. And by that, the system will have a different potential energy in comparison to what it was earlier. So if I keep on doing this kind of rotation, I can do it in infinitely small fragments or differentials, and I can actually reach to various different conformations. Each infinitely small this rotation will result in a new type of conformation. So there are infinite possible conformations of this molecule. We are not interested in how many conformations are there, because we know there are infinite. We really don't care. What we are more interested in is the key conformations, the key interactions. And once we identify those key interactions or key conformations, we will try to identify how much potential energy the molecule is getting, or what is the potential energy difference that we are going through. And then probably we can plot it in a graph, and we'll see how things are going on in different conformations of gluten. We'll try to identify those key conformations, we'll try to name them, what they are, and we'll see the potential energy difference. So that's what we are more interested in. Now, again coming back to this particular structure. So this is one conformation that we have drawn, and if we look it closely, the first carbon has a larger group attached, that is CH3 methyl group, and the other carbon also has a methyl group attached. And as we are twisting it about this C2C3 bond, we found that there are interactions coming into place, and those are kind of steric interactions that occur. There are basically two reasons that contribute towards the potential energy of this kind of molecule, or the variation in potential energy. One is the steric interaction that we can see over here, that is because of the steric strain or angular strain, all those things. And there is another reason that is not usually sought in books or at a lower level, that is some advanced level understanding. We'll discuss that at the end of the class. We'll keep it for later. So what is the second reason? So the first reason is the steric interaction that occurs in the molecule. And this particular conformation as we can see, has to be the lowest potential energy conformation, because every larger group or every other group is pretty much away or at 180-degree deviation from each other. So this is the lowest possible energy state that this butane molecule could have achieved. Okay. And one more important term that we are going to coin while discussing this particular thing. The important term that we are going to use is dihedral angle. So what exactly I mean by this dihedral angle is basically this angle. So this angle. So here that angle, that is the skeleton of carbon skeleton, this CH3 group and CH3 group attached across this single bond. What is the angle between them? So we will term it as delta, and in this case the delta is 180 degree. If I rotate it by 60 degree, the delta will change to either 240 degree from whichever direction I am taking the measurements, whether I am taking from this direction or this direction. So either it will be 240 degree or it will be 120 degree, depending on whether I am taking it to this side or this side. So this delta is going to change as I keep on rotating this molecule across this single bond. And one more thing, how important this steric interaction is. Just to understand that particular factor, what we do, we try to find out. Okay, so this molecule, like these two methyl groups, they have this van der Waals radius of 130 picometer. So this one is also 130 picometer, and if I add these two, like when I rotate it and make it like this, so basically their radiuses, if I add that, becomes 260 pm, and the distance between these two carbons, the bond length, is basically 210. So as you can see, there is a this is larger. So there is a congestion. These two groups, they really don't adjust side by side. That simply means whenever I am rotating this molecule and these two groups are coming in closer vicinity, they are intruding each other's space. They are not going to like each other in that space. So either somehow I forcibly cross them, or they remain this side. Either they remain this side if the molecule doesn't have enough energy to cross over or do this particular rotation, so either they remain locked or they cross it, but they do not really stay in that state where these two groups are in very much closer vicinity, or the dihedral angle is 0 degree. Okay. So this basically results in this steric interaction. Now this steric interaction doesn't essentially mean that CH3 group only have steric interaction. This can be between CH3 and hydrogen atom, or CH3 or two hydrogen atoms also. But in that case, the steric interaction will be lesser, or the degree of extent of steric interaction will be smaller. But here the extent of steric interaction is pretty much large and is mostly the determining factor for the potential energy. Now at room temperature, the molecule, this crossover doesn't require a lot of energy, but still it requires a decent amount of energy, substantial energy. And at room temperature, this particular thing is achievable. The molecule can do that. Also means if I take the molecule to a very low temperature, I try to freeze the molecule, there can be a situation where these two groups cannot cross. That simply means I have to take the molecule to, let's say, minus 150 degree or 120 degree, something like that. I do not know, but I can do it for a molecule where I can freeze this, or I can restrict this particular rotation. Anyways, so neither we are interested in how fast the rotation is or how this rotation is happening. All we are interested is, due to this kind of rotation, what kind of interactions that are coming into place, and what is the variation in potential energy. So I move on to the next portion, where we are going to discuss the potential energy changes in the molecule and the resulting conformations that are coming out of it. So what we do, we take this Newman projection, that's the most easier one to visualize, and we'll start with this delta equal to 0 degree, because delta equal to 180 degree we have already drawn. We'll start with delta equal to 0 degree and we'll keep on doing some rotations and we'll see how things are coming out. I'll do everything with black now. I cannot really spend time using different colors. So I'll draw the first carbon where I have CH3, hydrogen, hydrogen, and what I'll do, I'll draw the second carbon from which there are CH3, there is hydrogen, and there is another hydrogen. Okay, and this we think as a little bit twisted in our vision so that I can see this CH3 and this CH3, but in reality this CH3 is exactly in front of the other CH3, or this hydrogen is exactly in front of the other hydrogen. So here the dihedral angle delta is equal to 0 degree. And this particular conformation where what we discussed, where this CH3 has a very strong repulsive interaction or steric interaction, for which the system has a very huge potential energy in comparison to this one. So this, as I can see or understand, has to be the maximum potential energy. This one, it's exactly this CH3 is in front of this other CH3, or this hydrogen exactly in front of the other hydrogen. And this has the maximum potential energy, as you can see, because the larger groups are closer to each other, and these smaller groups are also closer to each other. So hydrogen-hydrogen steric interaction, hydrogen-hydrogen steric interaction, and CH3-CH3 steric interaction taking place in the molecule, giving rise to the highest potential energy state of this particular molecule, where delta equal to 0, dihedral angle is 0. And this particular conformation we refer to as eclipsed conformation, because every group on the front carbon is exactly eclipsing the same group on the back carbon or on the third carbon, C3. So this we call as eclipsed conformation. This is one of the eclipsed conformations. There are other eclipsed conformations also we are going to draw subsequently. So from this, what we do to reach to another important conformation, we do a 60 degree rotation. So 60 degree rotation, let's do in this way. We rotate the backside carbon by 60 degree in the clockwise direction. We can do it in anti-clockwise direction. We can do the front carbon also. For us, we are doing it this way. So we rotate it by 60 degree. So after this 60 degree rotation, what I am getting, so I am keeping the front carbon as it is, as it was earlier. So I retain their positions. So I have CH3 here, I have hydrogen here, I have hydrogen here. And for the back carbon, this CH3 has moved to 60 degree. This angle is 120 degree. So here the CH3 is here now. And similarly, the other hydrogens have also moved by 60 degree, because they are also attached to the framework. So this is a new conformation what I am getting, and here the delta is 60 degree. Now if I try to understand, as I am rotating this molecule, so by infinitely small angles, this CH3 is going away from this CH3. So of course the potential energy of the system is decreasing slowly. As I keep on doing it, it's subsequently going away from this CH3. So the interaction, steric interaction is going down or going in lower direction. Similarly for hydrogens also the steric interaction is decreasing, and until this point the energy keeps on decreasing. If I further rotate it, now what happens, this CH3 is coming closer to this hydrogen, and this hydrogen is again coming closer to this hydrogen is coming closer to this CH3. This will again result in increment of potential energy. So in the next rotation there will be some increment in potential energy. As of now we have reached to a lower potential energy state. Now this is a scattered state where every other group is at maximum possible deviation from each other. That not essentially this is the lowest energy state, but this should be a lower possible energy state. And this particular conformation or this type of conformation where the groups are all scattered or at the maximum angular deviation from each other is called staggered conformation. So this kind of conformation is eclipsed and this kind of conformation is staggered. Wherever we will come across this type of conformation, we will call it as eclipsed, and in future we are going to label individually all the conformations separately so that we can identify this one from another eclipsed one or this one from another staggered one. Anyway, so we do another 60-degree rotation of the same molecule. Again in the clockwise direction, we keep on doing it in the clockwise direction for the back carbon, and we'll see how things are turning out. So we keep the front groups as it is. And now what do we have? We have this hydrogen placed over here. We have this hydrogen popping out at this place, and we have this CH3 popping out here. So this is another eclipsed one. Here the delta is equal to 120 degree. We continue the cycle and quickly we are going to draw everything. So then we give another 60 degree rotation. So your CH3 is here, hydrogen is here, hydrogen is here. Give another 60 degree. Now my CH3 is here, hydrogen is here, another hydrogen is here, and keep on labeling this delta equal to 180 degree. This is exactly the one that we had drawn earlier. Here the delta is equal to 240 degree. Then I give another 60 degree rotation, and I reach for this one. And you do another 60 degrees. So here delta equal to 300 degree, and you give another 60 degree rotation. You reach to the first point. Delta equal to 360 degree, and the first state is achieved. This carbon CH3 comes to this point. So we have traversed through a set of important conformations. Now let's label them. So we label this one. So I, D, VA. Okay. So out of this, I, IAI and V, these are eclipsed transformations. Whereas IA, IB and VI are staggered conformations. But not all the eclipsed conformations are equal or similar in their structure, or not all the staggered conformations are equal or similar in structure. So they are different. They also represent different potential energy on the curve. So we'll try to specifically identify or name them. So this is fully eclipsed because every group is exactly matching the group behind it. So we term this I as sim or fully eclipsed conformation. Sim conformation or fully eclipsed conformation. Okay. And these two are semi-eclipsed conformations. If we look at a little bit closely, what we have here is in this one, let's say CH3H interaction, CH3H interaction, HH interaction. So we have two methyl hydrogen interactions and one hydrogen-hydrogen interaction. And if we look for the V structure, here also you have CH3H, CH3H and HH. So you have again two methyl hydrogen interaction and one hydrogen-hydrogen interaction. So of course this and this third and fifth, they should have same potential energy because they are having similar type of interaction, exactly same interactions that they have, steric interactions. Whereas this is the highest in potential energy, these two are higher but lower than this one. And they are semi-eclipse conformations. Okay, coming down to the staggered ones. This one is fully staggered because the exact groups are opposite, 180 degree from each other. So this is fully staggered or anti-conformation. Whereas this second and sixth, they are semi-staggered. Because you do not have CH3 opposing at the exact opposite of another CH3. You might have hydrogen opposite in hydrogen in opposite of another hydrogen, but you have hydrogen in opposite of methyl or hydrogen opposite of methyl. So this is semi-staggered. We have a different name for it or specific name for it. We tell it Gauss conformation. So this is Gauss conformation, this is Sim conformation or fully eclipsed. These are semi-eclipsed. This is also semi-eclipsed. This is fully staggered. This is a Gauss conformation. This is also another Gauss conformation where you have methyl, the dihedral angle is either 60 degree or 300 degree. So they are in closer vicinity but not exactly in the closest possible. So the angle is 60 degree between them. And if we look at the kind of interactions, we can see that here the kind of interaction is exactly the same way that is occurring here. Here in the right, suppose in the clockwise fashion, if I look at the interaction, I can look the same interaction in the anti-clockwise fashion over here. So they too have same potential energy. But of course, any staggered conformation will have a lower potential energy. This would be stable conformation. So these two are also lower potential energy points, but not exactly as low as this one, because this is the lowest one, this is the most stable one. So they have to be lower. So now what do we do? We will try to plot it on a potential energy curve. So let's do that. So we pretty much know what we are going to refer to, so I erase it. So let's say here I am taking the potential energy against the dihedral angle. So delta I am keeping on x-axis. So here delta equal to 0, and subsequently what I do, I keep on doing that 60 degree interval. So here you have delta equal to 60, then Here you have delta equal to 120. Delta equal to 180. Two 40. Three 300 and 360. Now at delta equal to 0 we had maximum steric interaction, so the point was at a maxima. So let's say this is the maximum potential energy curve. As we rotated it through 60 degree, we reached to a lower energy point. So we reached to a minimum, that was one of the staggered, and this staggered was our Gauss conformation. So this is my I, this is my II, that was my Gauss conformation, this is my Singh conformation, fully eclipsed one. So I reached to a Gauss conformation. Again, as I rotated it through another 60 degree, the interactions increased, but not as high as this one. So we reached to a maxima, let's say here. So this was another staggered conformation, my third. That was another staggered conformation. Sorry, eclipse conformation. Semi-eclipse conformation we reached. And then as we rotated through another 60 degree, we reached to this one, the fully staggered one. So that was the minimum potential energy point. So we reached over something, let's see here. So this was the minimum potential energy point we reached. This has to be lower than this one. And then as we increase, as we further rotate, so this was my fourth state. So this is fully staggered. Then what I will reach? I will reach to a semi-eclipse state. So I rotate it further, and we knew that third and fifth have same potential, so we will reach to the same potential energy point as we rotate it further. So we reach over here, and we rotate it further by 60 degree, and we had already discussed that 2 and 6 have same potential energy. So we'll reach to the state, potential energy state, that is here, and in another 360 degree we are reaching to the initial point, initial energy point. So we are reaching to the point where we started with, so maximum potential energy point. Now this is kind of the pattern that we are going to see for different conformations of butane molecule. And this energy gap, this energy gap is between these two. This energy gap is 3.3 kilojoule per mole. Not very high, but there is a measurable energy gap. And this gap is 16 kilojoule per mole, and this gap then the maximum potential energy and the minimum potential energy states. This energy gap is approximately 19 kilojoule per mole. Well, all these figures, some of them can be measured, some of them cannot be measured. So they have to be calculated. For example, the energy states of these eclipse states, they cannot be measured. The molecule never stays in that state. it's never going to stay in that state. So whenever I try to isolate or try to find a molecule or set of molecules, I am going to find them in two particular states, either in this state or in this state, either in a fully staggered state or in a Gauss state. Mostly because this is the most stable one, so mostly major portion of the molecule are going to stay in the fully staggered state, and a lesser portion of the molecule is going to stay in the Gauss state. So these are the two forms that we are going to observe. But of course, these states are being achieved whenever the molecule is transiting from one state to another. They have to. They are the transition states, and you cannot really isolate those transition states. So what we can do, we can actually calculate, because we cannot find them, we cannot isolate them, so we cannot measure them. So we have to use calculations, and by calculations we are reaching to these figures. But these things can be measured. We can find the energy state of this one, we can find the energy state of this one, and we can find the difference. Anyway, so of course every point on this curve is a different conformation that we can achieve for butane molecule. So we have infinite conformations, we have different potential energy points, and plot them, and these are the kind of patterns that we are going to see for butane molecule. This pattern was pretty much simpler when we had done when we would have done it for let's say ethane molecule or let's say propane molecule. So that pattern is pretty simpler. But here you have new sets of interactions coming into play because of two methyl groups that are present. Anyways, that pretty much sums up our understanding about conformations of butane. Now one more particular reason that we had left out for last portion, that is it only because of this steric interaction or the steric strain that these potential energy variations are coming into picture? No, not exactly. There is another reason or another factor that is into play, but we usually do not coin that factor just because that's difficult to interpret or understand. So what another factor that manifests that results in this kind of variation? So in a broader way, what we'll try to understand, how that factor is different in between two states, that is, one is eclipsed and another is staggered. So let's say I draw the two states. So any eclipse I could have taken, I have taken one of those most unstable, that is 1, and any staggered I could have taken, I have taken, let's say, this one. So what is this factor that we are going to talk about? And here we are pretty much familiar with bonding and anti-bonding orbitals. So there is a kind of interaction that happens, that is visible in any of the staggered conformations. And that interaction is interaction between sigma and sigma star. So to understand that further, so let me write it as 1 and this one as IB. That's what we had labeled it earlier. So if we look at this IB molecule, let's say any two bonds that I have drawn over here, that are 180 degree at a 180 degree deviation from each other. So there, this is the staggered one. So this I am drawing for IV. So let's say this is one hydrogen, this is another hydrogen. Now this is a sigma one. This is another sigma one that I have. So for this CH sigma bond, I should be having a sigma star antibonding orbital that is vacant. So this is my sigma, and this is one sigma star, vacant sigma star orbital. That must be exactly opposite of the same bond that we have at a 180 degree deviation. And this sigma and this sigma star, because this is a filled orbital, this is a vacant orbital, so these two can actually interact. This sigma sigma star overlapping can take place, and anywhere I have I provide electrons to a new vacant room, basically another sigma star. I provide it for interaction with a sigma. The system potential energy will go low. The electron will be more stable, or the system will be more stable, because you are allowing it more space. So sigma sigma star interaction, this is only not only for this CH bond, this is going to occur for this CH3 bond with this CH3. So sigma of this one with sigma star of this one, as well as sigma of this one with sigma star of this one. And similarly for hydrogen, hydrogen for hydrogen. So there are basically 6 set of sigma sigma star interactions that can occur in this particular staggered conformation. This stabilizes the molecule, this stabilizes the particular conformation. Whereas if we look at the eclipsed one, so if I draw the eclipsed one, so you have bonds something like this. So this is a sigma bond, this is another sigma bond, these two are filled, and the sigma star is over here, the sigma star is over here. Of course, sigma stars are not filled orbitals, so they are not going to repel each other. This is a sigma star, this is another sigma star. But there is no stabilizing interaction, rather these two sigma bonds are going to repel. So sigma electrons, or the electron clouds, are going to repel. So apart from steric interaction, there was this electronic cloud repulsion that was also destabilizing or stabilizing. That was also showing stabilizing or destabilizing effects in the different conformations. So anyways, in this eclipsed conformation, you do not have any such stabilizing interaction, rather you have destabilizing interaction coming out of the charge cloud repulsion. Whereas in staggered conformations, you have sigma sigma star interactions, and there are 12 such interactions which was resulting in 6 such interactions which are resulting in stabilization of the conformation. Here you have 3 such interactions which are destabilizing this particular conformation apart from other reasons. So this pretty much sums up or explains why in general the staggered conformations are more stable in comparison to the eclipsed conformations. And this brings us to the end of this particular discussion. Thank you.